Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Shares with Kevin, where we add value to people's lives, happening every day at 12 on ebuzzradio.com. Joining me for the Lunchtime Career segment today, we have founding member of The People Shop, a career enhancement firm focused on linking businesses, forging leaders and careers and talent, leadership and talent strategist, master NLP practitioner, Chantal Kading. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm very well. I'm very blessed and grateful to be with you.
Yay, thank you. Thank you for making the time. Chantal, don't you want to kick it off with just giving us some idea of The People Shop and telling us more about you and how it came about? I know you have an interesting story for it, so please share that with us.
Wonderful. So I think after studying for 4 years at one of our top universities in South Africa, after 4 years with an honors in psychology, I was unemployable. Someone enjoyed my voice and gave me a job as a recruiter in an agency recruitment firm. And really what I realized there was it really was about managing the symptom. And it's about putting people in seats. And if someone leaves, you just replace them with someone else. But we never kind of looked at what's the root cause of why are people leaving. And more that's kind of saying is it's about jobs versus careers. And that kind of gave birth in 2005. I founded People Shop. And really the intention was always saying is, my husband kind of said to me when I'd finished my internship in psychometry, he said, why don't you do recruitment again? And I said, I don't like it. He said, why don't you do it your way? And I said, okay, well, that could be interesting. And so it was a move towards career consulting and saying is, understand who's the person behind the title. Look at where their life is, because where you are in your different life phases will impact your career and the choices you make. And from that kind of developing into a career enhancement firm to help people and facilitate their journey for life mastery and career excellence. And then kind of as the story continued is even kind of doing all this enhancement around the individual and their career focus was magical. We were able to put people into very difficult environments where retrenchments are happening, tough cultures, and people stayed because they knew what their career path was. But the biggest dilemma we faced was being able to see the discrepancy between leadership. And that kind of gave birth to our second kind of journey in terms of leadership development, managing team dynamics, saying is oftentimes you have the staff you have, but how do you maximize performance out of those individuals to try and get a high performing team? And that's kind of what we've been building subsequent is really being able to enhance leaders, tap into their potential, being able to forge and nurture different teams into high performing teams, and so uplifting businesses and industries as a consequence.
That's amazing. I love that you mentioned, the people generally just deal with the symptoms and they don't actually get to the root, right? And it's something I've noticed, and I think COVID has also pushed the button of that and kind of gone, like, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you in the job that you're in? Do you love it? Is it fueling your fire and fanning your flames, or is it really dampening your mode and your mood? And I think COVID's really pushed the agenda around asking that tough question, and I think that's also why it lends itself so well to having someone sort of help you through how to make those choices better, right? But one of the things you mentioned that's interesting is the difference between a job and a career. Give us some idea of what that means.
So, for me, it's always been a thing. People say, I want to scale the career ladder. And what we found the last couple of years is it's no longer a ladder, it's a jungle gym. And so being able to saying is, how do I not just upskill myself, but reskill myself? And almost when climbing Kilimanjaro, what happens is that you sort of have to dance with your mountain. You don't just scale it straight up. You kind of have to walk around it, and you hike high and you sleep low. And sometimes it's about acquiring one skill, saying is, I've got this, and realizing is, I've got the skills, but I don't have the competencies. And you've got to have to kind of step back and saying is, I got to go back to fundamentals and learn the 5 ways how not to do it so I can be mastering it for 6 ways, really how to do it. In terms of the job, for me is oftentimes we want a job which gives us a certainty. But I find in a job kind of thing, it's something you just get paid is how do you make a living? But it really isn't about what fuels your fire, like you said. And it's not about, oftentimes people, the question saying is, do you believe that life is about finding yourself? And like most people kind of say, put their hand up saying, absolutely. And I'm like, no, you're not lost. What you're needing to do is to be able to create the life you're wanting to have. And that's what a job is, just you find a job, but you create a career. And by creating something which you play with and you mold and you dance around this jungle gym, you're able to create something and make opportunities for yourself as opposed to just trying to find something. You build towards something which you're proud of, which you can call your calling card, through something which you create your legacy. So for me, really, career is a lot more around being able to build something where you are able to grow in as you kind of grow and navigate, but also something that in the longer term is that you're able to make a contribution and give back, and leave your fingerprint upon that career or that business or industry that you play in.
I love that you say it like that, because relating it to a coaching client that I just saw yesterday, we've been working at a number of things, and she's taken some action, and then she kind of gets busy and she's like, okay, I'll speak to you soon. And yesterday we had a catch up, and the profound turnaround that she's had in her career. And strangely enough, we specifically worked on those root value systems that she has in her world, and really starting to define that for her. And because of that, her world is like completely changed, right? So, I mean, it's so, people often kind of deal with that external kind of thing, and they forget about the internal kind of processing, kind of going, okay, but why do you even do it? What is that feeling, that inside core that gets you up and going, right?
Great.
And like you and I are working on a project together at the moment, right? And there's been so many times I was like questioning myself, going, why am I doing this? And I'm like, okay, but if I get back to the core, and I'm going, okay, well, that's why I do it, even when like things don't go the way they're supposed to. But I mean, back to the questions here. What are the elements of career management, Chantal? So what does that mean? Like, because a lot of people, they say they want to, manage their careers, but I think they don't often know what to do, how to do it, where to go, what's the next step.
So people kind of touching on what you were saying is, I find people oftentimes is that when it comes to careers and jobs and that next move, it's almost like saying is, let me look at the dessert menu. If someone offers you a dessert menu, saying is, oh, let me have a look at it. And you look at what is enticing to you in that exact moment. But really, when it comes to career management, is being able to almost kind of saying is before and saying is, I've made a choice who I am and what my goals are. I want to be gluten-free, for example. So when the shopping list comes around or the menu comes around, is not saying I'm going to have chocolate cakes because they've got the best one in town. It's saying I'm going to stick with the cheesecake because it has got no base, which I can scratch off, and it's only got kind of dairy in it. It's about being able to know, saying is, who am I as an individual? And almost at that point you spoke about the person you're coaching, is saying is, really start with the introspection, starting from you and saying is, who are you? What are you wanting to do? How do you want to exist and show up in the world? And identify first that internal exploration. And from there, kind of saying is, what is the career map? And saying is, what are my aspirations? Where do I want to go? What kind of heights do I want to achieve? What are my natural talents? And when we kind of talk about it, we speak about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and your weakness is not something to focus on, but something to manage and mitigate. Is looking at what are your values, what is your truest core to who you are. The third and the fourth element, or the fourth and the fifth element, is around what are your passions and what is your purpose. It really kind of starts from a career saying is, first start with who you are and unpacking that, and from there saying is, now great, saying is, how do I actually express that in the world? And that's what we kind of look about saying is, what is my professional brand equity? What is my core skills and competencies? And oftentimes people just, they don't get the distinction between what is skills versus the competence element. That's the depth you want to kind of build up. And then kind of looking at the life integration and saying is, looking at who I am in my private life is, how do these two things kind of meet up? Because you have to think about what is your authentic value proposition? Who are you at your core? And how do you want to show up in the world, and to find organizations and roles that match who you are, that you're able to arrive as close to your true self versus putting on these masks we live on.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's, and I think that speaks to everything that we do, everything that we're about. As you're speaking, I'm kind of just resonating with, like, how it plays out with so many times when I speak to clients. What's beautiful about the process is that profound shift when they do really understand their own values, when they do understand their highest needs, when they do understand why they get up in the morning and do what they're doing, right? And you kind of go, okay, that in itself is the inspiration and the forward moving moment for your brain, for your life, for why you do what you do. And then it's like, wow, I have they in essence start seeing the beauty of themselves in the world and why they're bringing value to the moment, right?
That's, I think, there's a beautiful quote that says, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
It really kind of saying is, if you bring more of that passion to it, is work, I think, has always got ebbs and flows and ups and downs. But when you're doing something that resonates with you, it just is so much easier. It makes the hard stuff tolerable. It makes the challenges something you're willing to push through. And to get to that growth part, whether having everything just saying is another day, another month, how much closer to the next paycheck, we're saying is, it's a long-term game for me. I'm playing at a career here versus just a one-day cricket match type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So in terms of the pandemic, and not to have a COVID conversation, but to sort of, because what's interesting about the COVID pandemic in how it's sort of really pushed the agenda around careers, around asking the difficult questions. What have you also noticed around how this has affected business skills and people's career choices?
Absolutely. For me, the pandemic has been a coming home, literally and figuratively. Because we were kind of sort of secluded to our homes, is we went back to fundamental human elements in terms of family and really kind of resonating and tapping and saying is what's really important to me. I've never in my career seen so many people in really good organizations, well-paying jobs resign without a job, saying is what I'm doing may be paying my bills, but it does not move me. It doesn't align to who I truly am, and saying is I want to go and figure out what I want to do. And I want to do something that is much more meaningful. So it's a coming home back to family values and really what's true for you, and honoring that home life a lot more than we did before. And the second element is expecting different from business. So a big move towards saying is being with companies who truly live out their values, being with companies who've got a greater purpose than just making profit. I mean, that's something we all have to do, is to run commercially viable and profitable organizations, but at the same time is to add value, like beautifully in your intro, adding value, but also contributing to the world in a meaningful way. Some people say to me, Chantal, is I want to be able to do something I can be proud of in 5 or 10 years. It's just kind of, having climbed the ladder. So, and again, I think the second element is, for many years we've had this drive towards green businesses and a green supply chains, green, just being more kinder to Mother Nature. I said Mother Nature took herself back and kind of put the entire world on a pause moment, and kind of a big drive towards saying is what are we doing to the world and to each other as human beings? And really is by this lack of, I think everybody has been loving technology so much, but we lost our human element. And by taking it away, we're saying is I want to connect with people. I want to see people truly. And we're still kind of living through masks and on e-technologies, but that the importance and the need for human connection has been reactivated in people, I found.
And this is a way off the conversation now, but as you're talking, you mentioned this is not a pre-planned conversation. So I'm not expecting you to mention green business.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, I recorded a completely different conversation with a whole different other person around marketing and green business, and I'm going, how significant, like, does the universe like play here, where these things, are we just having these conversations and it's just falling into part? It's almost like we planned, how this this conversation would be rolling out in the next week or two. But I mean, that leads me to the next question here. Sorry, I'm clicking on the wrong things. There is a change in business demand around moving to digitization, and also a change in consumer behavior. So what does that mean for careers? Because I think a lot of the time, one of the conversations I've recently had is people have this idea and this fear that if you're moving into a digitization age, what will become of our jobs? And there's this lingering question. But it's also a case of saying, well, what action are you taking right now, right? And instead of focusing on what could potentially go wrong, what about what could potentially come from it? So how are you also seeing that from the decisions people are making around their careers?
Absolutely. I get excited and I'm like, okay, hold on, just like pause my thoughts. I don't kind of speak quicker, because the more excited I get, the quicker I speak. But the first element is talk about business. And an area that I play in quite a lot in the business space is supply chain management. And the beautiful thing about that is it's been at the leading front of digitalization, digital transformation, the fourth industrial revolution. But it's around what that looks like in a business setting. Is what we're finding in businesses is that so many businesses in this last 18 months have had to, many companies have not survived. And those who have survived is because they've been agile. They've had the agility kind of saying is, how do we innovate? How do we come to market quicker? I mean, we've got local South African organizations or retailer who's been able to bring food to you in 60 minutes. I mean, for me to be able to write a shopping list, actually get in my car, go and back, it would be more than 60 minutes. Is what I'm saying is, how can you truly, truly innovate? The agility is important. The second element is agility and innovation. So are you able to adapt to change? I see people all the time are saying is, you've got to fail fast. Fail fast, review and implement. The second element comes that customer service. I think because of things changing so much is people want to work with companies that resonate with them, whether that's from a shopping perspective, whether that's from a business to business perspective, is companies who are giving you great service. If you don't, there are so many other competitors in the market that I'm going to shop somewhere else. And customer service is that second element, is the consumer behavior saying is you want to work with companies who've got great customer service, companies who do something different and special. What is your unique identifier? And the next element is that responsiveness, is we don't have time to wait. Think about a perfect plan tomorrow is wasted. You want a fairly good plan executed today. So are you able to get something to me really well today? That's that responsiveness, the agility, innovation. And then like we just touched on it, is this green element is really raising. And I think it's, again, beautifully by Mother Nature saying is, I'm here. And I do have the force and the power to not just slow you down, but to stop you entirely. And the beauty about this, younger generation's been coming in, and for the last probably 5 to 8 years, we've seen a slow move in even supply chain saying is warehouses and distribution centers having solar panels on their roofs. Companies saying is, how do we start just educating drivers to say is, take care of the tires you use. Don't just drive, the tar out of them, but rather kind of saying is, how do we keep things? How do we not use up every mineral resource that we have? Things like Day Zero was kind of saying is, be aware of our water consumption. It's about saying is, be conservationist even in your daily living, and deal with companies who are having a more conscientious and a conscious approach to how they do business. So that's the one part. Taking it to people's careers individually, and again, like you said, I think the difficulty I think that we have in South Africa is our large, it's the level of skilling in our country, which is different to a first world. So in our country, in digitalization, it does mean automation does mean a loss of jobs. And that's why we've kind of taken this approach, and so we're calling it our reskill revolution, is the world is changing so fast. And the thing about digital, it's a fast change. It's changing so fast, which means you don't have time to slowly upskill yourself. What you need to do is reskill. And there's an opportunity for those who are able to be agile and to have the perseverance to say reskill, in the sense of, I think the stats show that there's going to be based on digitization, 75 million jobs will be lost, but 133 million jobs will be created, which means there is an increase of jobs coming in the market, but you've got to prepare yourself by reskilling. They speak about the average almost like skill stability. So meaning that if, for example, if you require 100% combination of skills to do your job right now, within the next 2 to 3 years, what's going to happen is 58% of your job skills are going to be stable, but 42% of the skills required to do your job, most people do not have right now. So we're really kind of in a phase of saying is we need to not just upskill ourselves, but reskill ourselves for this move to digitization, being not just consumers of technology, but creators of new technology. Not just people who can be able to serve well, but people who can negotiate, people who aren't just able to do basic cognitive functioning, but really kind of high cognition, creative problem solving, bringing emotional intelligence into the equation. It's about being able to operate at a higher level. We need an upgrade, a full software upgrade in terms of our skill set and running and managing our careers.
I love that. I love, because one of the things that I remember a couple of weeks ago, on this project that we're working down, I flew down to Cape Town, and there was dealing with a car and dealing with the stuff, and like eventually I arrived in Cape Town, and I was like, okay, now let's head to where I was going. And I was completely frustrated in that moment. And as I took a turn, I came across the most picturesque kind of moment of Cape Town, and my brain kind of softened, like kept quiet, right? And the point I'm wanting to make here, I was like, it immediately came to me as like just a powerful thought of eagerly anticipating uncertainty, right? And I in that moment I was like, that's exactly what it is, you know. You kind of, even though we don't know what's happening, even though we know that things don't always go according to plan, part of my my tool set, part of what I need to have in my tool bag is the ability to be able to sort of be in that forefront of going, yes, as much as it's scary, as much as it's uncomfortable being outside my comfort zone, what is the eager anticipation of the uncertainty of what potentially could come from this moment, right? And then you're coming back to you saying the reskilling, you're kind of going, yeah, you know, if you, as much as we don't know what's going to happen, potentially, what can I do with what I've got right now? And sort of living on that forefront and kind of going, cool, so this is what I've learned, and this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. You know, and it just reminds me of that moment. And you're kind of going, yeah, you have to be in the anticipation of the uncertainty and just eagerly live there, you know, kind of be there and prepare yourself, because we weren't prepared for COVID. We weren't prepared for, you know, what could go wrong to this degree. And here we are, you know, like months later, years later, almost it's about a year now.
Yeah.
And we're here and we're doing it, right?
Agreed.
So if we have the evidence to prove that, we're kind of going, well, we've got here this far, which means it's potentially possible. So if that was possible, where to from here?
I think, you know, growing up, and I use this analogy sometimes, saying is that when my parents were growing up as baby boomers, the world was about what you knew. If you had an education, if you had skills, you were secured a job.
Yeah.
Then it kind of transition saying is it's about who you know. If you know someone in business, then you will be able to get a job. And the world now is about who knows you and what do they know about you. And what that means in terms of saying is that you have to be able to build a brand by how you show up. It's not about your skill set anymore. You know, again, growing up, it was about IQ. What is your IQ? You know, everybody kind of knew or your parents knew what your IQ was, you know, which is the smarter of the two children. And it can become now the last, probably from the mid-90s, by Daniel Goleman kind of bringing it, which is about EQ, is have you got the emotional resilience to be able to navigate the change? And the biggest change we're seeing now, and I mean, it's probably, again, the pandemic really escalated it, is what's your AQ? What is your agility quotient? And that's being able to say is, change is like death and taxes, right? That is a confirmed, guaranteed, the world is going to change. You being able to, how well you surf the waves of change, that's the part that's in your control. Stopping change from happening, not going to happen, right? But how well you can surf it, that's where your agility comes in. And saying is, can I adapt to it? Can I be able to upskill, reskill myself when required? Can I be able to create that pause moment saying is, like in our house, we call it panic slowly, right? A kid's just fallen, broken an arm, and I'm like, husband, you want to come home, but don't worry about it. I'm panicking slowly, right?
I love that.
When the panic passes, it's kind of like us and my team will sometimes saying is, if you're under stress, you come under pressure, that's okay, right? Is you want to be able to kind of always operating in the pressure space, but not getting to stress where your EQ kind of switches off and literally you're on survival mode.
Yeah.
And this pandemic has kind of said, it's been a winter season. And I'm saying is 2020 was the pause. 2021 is the game changer. This is where I think legends and the best organizations, because if you can navigate through this period in your career, in your personal life, in your business life, if you can recalibrate, this is the year where I think genius is going to be born.
I love that, and I completely agree with you. If I was one of those people that went into complete panic in the first 3 weeks, because I was going, well, I need to be in front of people for me to be able to work. I'm like, I can't work now. So, and I just for 3 weeks I was just down and out, miserable, and then and that's how I came across creating the Lunchtime series. Like how do I add value? People need help, right? And then I was like, I can have a good conversation with someone and share that with people, right? And then that's, it sort of spurred me on to get to just take action to it. And from taking the action and not sitting still, it's fueled into having an international, coaching business and. But to the point now you were making is, does it mean that people are still required to get a degree? Does the fact that I need to go to school, I mean, yes, obviously you have to go to school, but I'm talking about university and getting that degree and really pursuing that career that we kind of have tick boxed as important careers. And yet, if you look at so many people out there today, there's content creators. They don't have any kind of degree. They kind of left school kind of going, hey, I want to make some videos. And they're internationally famous millionaires, right? And you're kind of going, okay, so how do I make a video and I don't have to study?
I'm with you. It's I was thinking, what are my kids being fed as these uneducated young people who are making millions? I think there's two things. And I think, let's say, I was quoted publicly and publicized a couple of times writing the following quote. An education means nothing when you have it. It means everything when you don't have it.
Yeah.
It's always, it's how you enter the door, right? And if you think about it if you're going to have your own business, then this rule doesn't apply to a point, right? Yeah. But if you're wanting to work in a corporate organization, there's a picking or there's a shopping list. And the first requirement in a South African context is equity, not the same for all other countries. The second one is education. The third one is experience. And then it's kind of personality thereafter. I always say that people hire 75% skills and qualification and 25% personality, but they fire 75% personality and 25% skills and etc.
Yeah.
But the point is kind of saying is that if you don't have the qualification, you won't even get a seat, or you won't be invited to a seat by the interview table. Then the qualification matters. But when you've got it, no one cares whether you do or don't. Then it's about what you're able to deliver that makes all the difference. But the biggest thing is, and I deal with people all the time saying, Chantal, is I wasn't able to get a qualification. And now I cannot get to my aspirations. Saying is, how else do I get there? And that's where the creativity comes in, saying is, you may not have a bachelor degree, and as a parent in your mid-30s with a family and a full-time job, to go and do a 3-year qualification or a bachelor degree part-time is going to take you 6 years. You don't have that capacity right now, even though you've got the drive to do it. But it might have been saying is, can you go and get a postgraduate qualification? The second thing is to be able to be aware, and that's where I always people it's like, please stay off your social media and spend time with your career media. In the sense of saying is, what is your portfolio of evidence? What is the trends happening at the moment? I mean, in 2015, the World Economic Forum publicized the top skills for 2020, and the joke was that, I mean, again, being an EQ practitioner, in that year, it was the first time that EQ actually came onto, emotional intelligence came on to the top 10 at like number 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful last year, within the first month of 2020, LinkedIn actually publicized what their most in-demand skills was actually by companies globally sourcing talent. And it came down to everything that was on the World Economic Forum was on there. Emotional intelligence, influencing, higher cognition, creativity, advanced problem solving. So if you are able to, you may not have the qualification and the education, but getting a soft skills education, which that's where coaching comes in, right? Hard skills you get from a proper degree, but coaching gives you the soft skills, and that's how you progress up to senior and leadership level. The other element was hard skills. If you are able to create content, I mean, the thing is, these young people are able to create content, which it's like movie quality. Yeah. But movie creation or content video creation is an in-demand skill right now for people in YouTube, but also on businesses. We don't have advertisements anymore. You know, what you've got is you've got that 2 seconds before you kind of skip on your kind of media to the next kind of video that you want to watch. Yeah. So it's about blockchains. It's about cloud computing. It's about being able to get not a long-term degree, but something which is, what are the most hottest skills happening right now? If you've got digital skills, if you're able to do data analytics, marketing and sales, the organizational development area, that human interaction, because we're going so computerized, human interaction, human dynamics, if you're able to have those kind of skill sets, those are things that are growing. What are the industries? The care industry is growing. The IT industry as a given is growing. Green jobs, data, AI, people and culture, those are the kind of things we're looking for. Advanced and specialized project managers. Again, that's something that you are able to find ways around. And I'm saying, if you don't have the time and the money, there's always a different way to get there. And that's where the creativity comes in.
Yeah. And, you know, that leads to the next question, is the benefits of actually having a coach. Because obviously I come from a completely biased perspective.
Agreed.
I'm like, everyone should get a coach. I don't know why people don't have coaches. Like, we all should have coaches, right? Yeah. But like, in terms of this inroads and really supporting people in their careers and really getting their head wrapped around why a coach could actually add value. What is your take on that, and what is your stance?
The first thing I would say to people is that I tend to the 1%ers gravitate towards me, not the 90% population, the 5 and the 10%ers. And what I find is the differentiator with the top talent in our society is execution. And in order to be able to be self-disciplined and have great execution, that's where a coach helps. It's someone who is able to be your soundboard and tap into your or is to soundboard and facilitate you to tap into your primal genius, because I believe every single person has got a unlimited tap and potential and talent within them. I mean, if you told me in my 30s, when I was in, let's say, really good physical shape, that at 39 and change, I would climb Kilimanjaro, I would have told you it's never in a million years. Yeah. But I did it because of mindset. And saying is that we underestimate what we can do in a year. We overestimate what we can do in a year. We underestimate what we can do in 10 years. Is by a coach saying is, let's navigate this process through saying is, what are your talents? Number 2 is being able to say is, what is a roadmap how to get there? Because oftentimes is when you're within the situation is you don't see the wood for the trees. And a coach able to saying is, let's actually both take a dissociated view to this. And if you do like almost like we're stuck to the roof, and saying is, what is happening in your life? Let's look at your life and saying is, where are the options? Where's the opportunities? It allows you to pull yourself out of the situation to be able to make a more holistic kind of viewpoint of it and make better and better decisions. And again, the big thing is about a coach is there to kind of help you with those daily performance increments. 1% improvement every day is 30% improvement after a month, and it's 300% improvement after a year. It's that daily kind of keeping you accountable, ensuring that you get to execution. Most people know how to do things. How to lose weight. I mean, it's the hardest thing people complain about saying is, how do I lose weight? Everybody knows how to lose weight. They just don't do it. And it's the execution part you want to coach for. And again, I think for me, the second thing is life coaching is important. We get so involved in our careers, we forget about being great human beings and being great parents and partners and all those kind of things, and focus about, are we making enough money and when's the next holiday type of a thing. And the second part is from a coaching perspective is it's not the hard skills. Those you get from education, but it's the soft skills. Because what I find is the differentiator in business, because we're going to be taken over by robots pretty soon, if not already, it's about being able to know how to influence people, how to communicate with them, how to be able to really tap into, to use your EQ to access the full 110% of your IQ. It's those kind of soft things which are the differentiators. And that's how I think is, no matter how the world is transforming and evolving, a coach is able to give you the opportunity to become the 1%er and to always be deemed as talent, and to be able to create your paycheck, create your career path, and have career excellence and life mastery.
Thank you. No, I'm just looking at like we're running out of time, and I'm like, Chantal Kading is she's part of my tribe. She speaks my language, and it's just I mean, and I know that when you and I start talking, we can have a 2-hour conversation. But in summary of today, Chantal, give us some pointers. Like, what do we take away from this conversation? And I mean, there's many, but like if you had to give us a bit of a summary, three key takeaways about what we should really understand and start focusing on around our careers.
The first one I would say is liquid. So one is start drinking water and get your life into flow. Part 1.2 is have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and on a beautiful long weekend evening when you put your kids to bed, is to spend time with yourself to figure out who are you, who do you want to be in the world, not what you want to do, who do you want to be in the world. And if you start that introspective kind of a journey, saying is, if you figure out who you are, starting from self, is that'll give you a huge amount of answers. And the miracle thing I found when I coach people is saying is, like, I had someone the other day call me up saying, Chantal, is, you know that mantra we kind of like, my goal we put into a mantra? I'm like, yeah. She said is, I don't know how it happened, but I've not changed jobs and I have the dream job. My boss called and apologized to me, which he's never done in 4 years. I changed and the world just naturally, like, miraculously changed. It's when you start actually being true to who you are, as a consequence, the world just kind of the world's been waiting for you to show up. Everything's been prepared for you. You just had to kind of get there. The second element for me is professional brand equity. It's being able to saying is, start thinking about your career as a brand, and saying is, how do I authentically prove my value in business? Be a creator of content, not a consumer of content. Being able to really kind of take an approach saying is, how do I want to build this career? And then the last element, I think, is where we started kind of saying is, see it as a career jungle gym, not a ladder. It's not just a straight trajectory. It's about being able to play on the playground of your life. Is to integrate your life and your career, and saying is, how do I have the time of my life? If you only had 3 days, what would you do with it? And every day is another 24 hours to make magic with it. Is play with your career, play with your life. Is make sure that no moment and no opportunity is missed to be able to have fun with life, but at the same time to, our kind of, we went for marriage counseling before we started, and our motto was, plan for tomorrow, but have fun today. Is don't miss the moments of peace, the moments of fun, the moments of saying is, I'm building on a long-term plan here, but I'm not going to kind of live in the future. I'm going to enjoy every present moment.
Absolutely. Chantal, Chantal Kading, guys. This is Chantal Kading from the People Shop. You can hear why she's part of my tribe, right? She.
What you want of mine?
If we want to get hold of you, quickly tell us website, and I mean, obviously, all of this will be in the description boxes below. But where can we get hold of you?
Beautiful. So on LinkedIn, I'm very fortunate, and again, I encourage people to connect me on LinkedIn. We've got about 15,000 people on my LinkedIn globally, which means if you connect to me, it means you're second connect to someone else. So just Chantal Kading. So build your network, really important in business and careers. The second one is our website is www.peopleshop.co.za, and then our national number, you'll come down to Cape Town, we'll send you all over the country where my team is +2721 462 2828. And then email me at chantal@peopleshop.co.za.
Fantastic. Guys, that's the career segment for today. Chantal, thank you for joining us, and thank you for making the time. It was a fantastic conversation.
Beautiful. I appreciate it. So filled with gratitude and joy to spend time with you, Kev.
Thanks so much, Chantal. Chat soon. Cheers.
Beautiful. Thank you.